Welcome back to the series of tutorials on spin in quantum mechanics. So in the last video we saw that spin, as we studied as a quantum degree of freedom, has no classical analog, and in this video we'll be seeing what are the consequences of this fact of spin having no classical analog. So we shall continue from our last formal discussion in the last video. So I list some key points here. In case you haven't watched it, the link is in the description, so you can go and watch it first. And in any case, I'll try to keep it self-sufficient. But otherwise, if you have any issue, if you have any issue grasping the concept, you can go and watch it from there. So these are the important facts that we have covered in the last video, and I restate them here. So the first fact is that spin is a form of angular momentum. And this is an important fact to remember, to know. Second thing is that spin is an intrinsic property. So this is an angular momentum that your quantum particle is created of. So by any sort of external probing, you cannot change it. You cannot make it interact with any field, say magnetic or electric field, or change the intrinsic angular momentum. If for electron, as we said last time, that the spin angular momentum is plus h cross by 2 and minus h cross by 2, and it always stays the same. You cannot change it by any probing. So this is what is meant by the fact that it is inherent. It's like the mass or charge of the electron. The charge of the electron cannot be changed by any probing. So it's the same with the spin angular momentum. And because of this fact, we motivated last time that spin is a purely quantum degree of freedom and it has no classical analog. This is an important thing, that it has no classical analog. So this is an important fact. So these are the things that we covered in the last video. So now we proceed our discussion further. So now that we see that spin has no classical analog, so because of this fact, when we start dealing with the problem of spin in quantum mechanics, it is different from the problems that you have already dealt with. For example, the harmonic oscillator or the particle in a box, etc. So I would give you an example why the problem of spin in quantum mechanics is different from other problems. So for example, start considering the harmonic oscillator. So if I consider the harmonic oscillator, the Hamiltonian for the harmonic oscillator in quantum mechanics, and this I say that in quantum mechanics the Hamiltonian operator could be written as second derivative with respect to x square. This is when I say that it's a 1D oscillator, plus, so this is the Hamiltonian for the harmonic oscillator in quantum mechanics. And now what I do is I have the Hamiltonian operator. Now what I do is I write the Schrodinger equation. I figure out I solve that differential equation. I figure out what are the eigenstates and eigenvalues. I solve this equation HE equals EE. I figure out what are the eigenstates and eigenvalues, and then I can also see what should be the dynamics, how the time evolution goes. So these are the sort of things that I can answer given this form of the Hamiltonian. Now where this form of the Hamiltonian comes from, I go to my classical results. So in classical mechanics, if you have an isolated harmonic oscillator, then the conserved energy is given by p squared by 2m plus half m omega squared x squared. So I use this classical result, the result that comes from my classical experience, and then I promote it to the quantum operator. So I make the substitution in coordinate space, say that x goes to x and px goes to the derivative operator minus IH bar delta x. I make this substitution and then I figure out that this is the Hamiltonian, and this actually is my starting point. And using this, I can figure out all those exotic things, that the energy eigenvalues are discretized and the eigenstates are time evolutions, etc. So the starting points come from the classical mechanics. I promote this result to the quantum mechanics as an operator, and then I solve the problem. And I would mention that this cannot be done for spin. So this cannot be done for spin, and the reason for this is the fact, so this cannot be done for the spin, and the reason is this, that it has no classical analog, so you have no classical classical energy to start with that you can promote to quantum case. So this is one thing. I can give you another example, and this is one that we'll start dealing with in this video. So for example, consider that this was at the Hamiltonian level, which is for the dynamics predominantly. Now consider, for example, at the operator level. So I'm dealing with spin angular momentum, and that is a form spin operator, and that is a form of angular momentum. So let's consider the another form of angular momentum for which we already have all the quantum formalism developed. So I'm talking about orbital angular momentum. So for the orbital angular momentum, let's consider Lz, and we know that the operator corresponding to Lz in quantum mechanics can be written as derivative with respect to y minus phi with respect to x. And now, so this is the operator that you have in quantum mechanics for orbital angular momentum. So where this operator comes from, so using that operator, you can do all those things. So using these operators, I can write it in a different form that you might be more comfortable with. So using this operator, you figure out that the eigenvalues of this operator should be of the form m h bar. So the eigenvalues are quantized, where m takes integer values. So it is with this form of this form of the operator that you take, and then you figure out what should be the eigenvalues, what should be the eigenstates. So one thing is that it acts on the continuous space because there are derivatives and xy operators involved. So it acts on the continuous space, and the eigenvalues are quantized. So taking this form of the operator, I can solve that quantum problem of figuring out the eigenvalues which are quantized. But now where does this form of operator come? This again comes from classical mechanics, because in classical mechanics the Lz variable can be written as xpy minus ypx, but here and then again I promoted to the quantum in quantum mechanics I promoted to the operator, that is why there is a hat here, by the usual substitution in coordinate space at x goes to x and px goes to minus I h bar derivative with respect to x, and same for py, pz, etc. So this again comes from classical mechanics. So even if I talk about at the operator itself, the orbital angular momentum operator itself, so that also comes from classical mechanics. So the starting point I take from classical mechanics, and then I can do the remaining computations. But here the problem is that, so this again cannot be done for spin operator, because there is no classical analog for the spin operator. So even to figure out what should be the eigenvectors or eigenvalues, or maybe the more basic problem, what should be the spin operator, that you cannot do in the usual way that you have been doing, that is taking results from classical mechanics and then proceeding forward. So this cannot be done for spin angular momentum. So the point that I'm trying to raise from this discussion is that there has to be a change of strategy from what we have been using to solve, for example, harmonic oscillator or hydrogen atom in quantum mechanics, in which we start from a classical result and then build on that. So this is the major consequence of the fact that spin has no classical analog. So we cannot use the formalism that we have learned already to deal with quantum problems. So this comes off as a major upshot that a change of strategy is needed to deal with quantum mechanical spin. So the quantum mechanical spin. And this is something that we'll start dealing from next video onwards. So we'll start with a more basic question of fixing the Hilbert space of a particle possessing spin. So for that, we'll start first figuring out what should be the form of a spin operator. So this is something that we'll start doing from the next video. So we'll see whether the spin operator should look like a differential operator, like the orbital angular momentum, or some form of matrices, or something else. So this is the question that we'll answer in the next video. And I think that this is pretty much it for this video. And hope you enjoyed. If you did, then please hit the like and subscribe button. And yes, thank you for watching. See you next time.